Have you ever noticed how some people seem to feed off disrespect? It's almost as if insulting others gives them energy. They test your patience, poke at your nerves, and wait for the moment you snap. Because in their game, your explosion is their victory. But here's the hidden truth: every time you lose your temper, you hand them exactly what they wanted. You confirm their power over you. And that's why the strongest move is not to react with anger, but with calm, with silence, with words so sharp, so precise, that they pierce deeper than shouting ever could. No yelling, no dramatic outbursts, just calm, calculated responses that leave them rattled, exposed, and wishing they had never crossed you in the first place. That's what this video is about. Today I'll give you powerful comebacks that shut down rudeness instantly. Responses you can use in real life, whether it's with a toxic co-worker, a judgmental relative, or a so-called friend who doesn't know when to stop. Say these lines and you'll never feel disrespected again. And by the way, if you enjoy deep, thought-provoking insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and the art of navigating life with wisdom, you'll love my free weekly newsletter. Every Sunday and Thursday, I send out lessons that challenge the way you think, sometimes uncomfortable truths, sometimes strategies you can apply immediately to level up your life, and it's all free. If that sounds like something you'd value, check the link below to sign up and get wisdom delivered straight to your inbox every week. And if you're a brand looking to sponsor this content and reach a dedicated, engaged audience, my contact email is in the description. Let's create something meaningful together. Now let's dive straight into the first powerful comeback you can use whenever disrespect comes your way. Comeback number 1, the dismissal. You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it. On the surface, it sounds simple, but in practice, this is one of the most underrated power moves you can use when dealing with rude, arrogant, or judgmental people. It's not an attack. It's not emotional. It doesn't scream or shout. Instead, it quietly reminds them that their words carry zero weight in your world. And nothing frustrates an egotistical person more than realizing they've been dismissed. Why do rude people talk down to you? It's not to help. It's not even because they truly believe they're right. The truth is, they want control. They want to feel superior. They want their opinion to sound like law, and they expect you to obey. But the moment you don't argue, the moment you refuse to defend yourself, the moment you shrug, smile, and move on, they feel powerless. I learned this the hard way. For years, I thought I had to prove myself. If someone criticized my choices, I'd explain. If they mocked my dreams, I'd fight to justify why they mattered. Big mistake. I remember when I first started working on a big project, something that meant the world to me. I stayed up late, poured my energy into it, sacrificed comfort and sleep because I believed in what I was building. One day, I shared my idea with an old friend. I expected encouragement. Instead, he smirked and said, "That's a waste of time. Do you really think anyone's going to care about that?" The old me would have argued. I would have listed all my reasons, explained my passion, tried to convince him why he was wrong. But then I realized, why was I explaining myself to someone who had never built anything in his entire life? So instead, I just smiled and said, "You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it." Then I changed the subject, and you know what happened? Silence. He had nothing left to say. He expected me to defend myself, to seek his approval, to fight for validation. But by dismissing him, I stripped away all his power. And deep down, I know he felt it. Why this works? This comeback is powerful because it robs rude people of the one thing they crave: your emotional reaction. It makes it clear that yes, they can speak, but you don't have to care. You don't need their validation. Their words don't shake your confidence. People hate being ignored, especially when they're trying to put you down. That's why this line cuts so deep. It instantly makes them realize their opinion is irrelevant. And for someone who thinks they're important, that's the harshest truth they can face. When to use it. When someone mocks your career path or your dreams, maybe you're chasing something unconventional. People love to sneer, that'll never work. Just smile and say it, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it. When a toxic family member judges your choices, parents, siblings, relatives, sometimes they think they have the final say in your life. They don't. Remind them with this line. When a coworker belittles your ideas, in workplaces egos thrive. If someone tries to act superior, calmly remind them, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it. Then move on with your day, and that simple shift in response reveals a deeper reality about people who criticize you. The harsh truth. Here's what most people won't admit. The loudest critics usually aren't doing better than you. They're just louder, and the louder they are, the more insecure they usually feel. Their criticism isn't about you. It's about their own fear of being wrong, of being exposed, of being insignificant. And that's why this response is so effective. It holds up a mirror. It reminds them that their words mean nothing to you, that you don't seek their approval, and that what they've offered is just that, an opinion, not a fact. There's an old saying, a lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. That's the mindset you need the next time someone rudely tells you what they think about your life. Don't argue. Don't defend yourself. Just smile, deliver the line. You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it, and then move on with your day, because at the end of the day, your life is yours. And their opinions, completely irrelevant. Coming from the first lesson, where ignoring disrespect strips away its power, let's move to the next. Sometimes the sharpest weapon isn't silence. It's humor that cuts deeper than anger ever could. Comeback number 2. If I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke. At first glance, it sounds playful, almost like a joke, but hidden beneath the humor is a blade. This line does two things at once. It makes people laugh, yet it exposes the uncomfortable truth. You're telling the rude person, without saying it directly, that nothing intelligent ever comes out of their mouth. They may speak loudly, they may dominate the room, but their words carry no substance. And here's why this comeback is pure gold. It leaves them with nowhere to run. If they get angry, they look defensive. If they try to argue, they prove your point, that they have nothing meaningful to add. Either way, it's checkmate. I remember using this line once on a classmate. Let's call him Ryan. Ryan had one talent, making fun of others. He wasn't especially smart, successful, or even funny, but he knew how to act like he was. His whole game was about speaking louder than everyone else, throwing sarcastic insults, and making people feel small so he could feel big. One day during a group conversation, I was explaining a simple idea. Ryan, eager to play the clown, interrupted me with that smug tone people use when they think they're the smartest in the room. "Oh yeah, because you're such a genius, right?" Everyone laughed, not because his comment was clever, but because he said it with confidence and volume. And in moments like that, you only have two choices. Let them get away with it, or shut them down. So I smiled and said calmly, "Ryan, if I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke." The room froze. One person nearly choked on their drink. Someone else whispered, "Oh damn," and Ryan, he just sat there, shifting uncomfortably in his seat, scrambling for a comeback that never came. That's when it hit me. Loud people aren't always smart people. And if you call them out the right way, they crumble. This response works so well because it points to their lack of intelligence without you ever having to call them stupid. You're not insulting them outright. You're simply exposing the reality that they've never added value to the conversation. It flips the power dynamic in an instant. Rude people thrive by making others feel small, but this line flips their own game back at them. If they argue, they only dig themselves deeper. If they stay silent, they admit defeat. Either way, you win. So when should you use this? When someone constantly interrupts you with sarcastic insults. Shut them down with this line. When a co-worker tries to act superior but never contributes anything useful, remind them of their emptiness. When a so-called friend mocks you endlessly but never says anything smart themselves, it's time to put them in their place. The harsh truth. People who love mocking others rarely have anything valuable to offer. They hide behind sarcasm, thinking it makes them look sharp, when in reality it only hides their insecurity. The best way to deal with them is simple. Expose them. So the next time someone who never contributes anything meaningful tries to act like the smartest person in the room, don't waste your energy. Just hit them with, "If I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke." Then sit back and watch them struggle for a response that will never come. From the last story, you saw how arrogance crumbles the moment it's exposed. But sometimes, the wisest move isn't to outsmart them with humor. It's to step away from the game entirely. That's where this next line comes in. I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect. There was a time when I might have taken the bait. I would have explained myself, justified my reasoning, or even snapped back in frustration. But not this time. That day I refused to play his game. I leaned back, looked him straight in the eye, and calmly said, "I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect." Then I went silent. The entire room froze. Everyone's eyes shifted to him, waiting to see how he'd respond. But he had nothing. What could he possibly say? If he kept pushing, he'd only prove me right. If he backpedaled, he'd look weak. So he sat there fidgeting, searching for a comeback that never came. And here's the best part. After that moment, he never tried that nonsense with me again. Why this line is so powerful? Because it calls out their behavior without you having to insult them. You're not lowering yourself to their level. You're describing them for exactly what they are. And that burns far more. It removes their control. People like this thrive on reactions. When you don't give them one, they lose. You've just held up a mirror, forcing them to look at themselves whether they admit it or not. When to use this response? When someone keeps trying to start a fight with you. Instead of feeding their negativity, starve it. When a coworker or boss talks down to you. This line shows you won't tolerate disrespect. When a friend or family member belittles you, thinking their closeness gives them a free pass. Wrong. When a stranger tries to provoke you, not every battle is worth fighting. Some people aren't even worth acknowledging. The harsh truth, some people don't argue to solve anything. They argue to win. They argue because they enjoy seeing you upset. They get a twisted sense of satisfaction by crawling under your skin. So the best response? No response. Instead, drop this line. I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect. And then walk away. Because the moment they realize they don't have control over you, They've already lost. Comeback number 4, a wake-up call. The next line goes even deeper. Your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life. This isn't just a comeback, it's a reality check. People who walk around being rude, dismissive, and disrespectful think they're winning. But in truth, that attitude is a one-way ticket to nowhere. Rude people confuse arrogance with confidence. They think condescension equals power. But life doesn't work that way. Nobody respects someone who treats others like trash. No boss promotes someone who can't work well with others. No one builds strong relationships with someone who constantly belittles people. And no truly successful person ever got to the top by running their mouth instead of their brain. So when you say, your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life, you're not just shutting them down, you're exposing the failure they're heading toward. You're forcing them to confront the uncomfortable truth. Their behavior will eventually come back to haunt them. I once worked with a man, let's call him Mark. His entire personality revolved around being rude. If you made a mistake, he'd roll his eyes instead of helping. If you had an idea, he'd shoot it down without even listening. One day during a meeting, a co-worker spoke up with a suggestion. Mark cut him off with a sneer. Maybe if you actually knew what you were talking about, we wouldn't be wasting time. The room fell into uneasy silence. No one said anything, because that's what rude people count on. They rely on others staying quiet. But I wasn't going to let it slide. So I looked at him and said, your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life. The room went quiet again, but this time, it wasn't out of fear. Mark smirked at first, pretending not to care. But as the meeting continued, I noticed something. He wasn't as confident anymore. He wasn't laughing. For the first time, he looked uncomfortable. Why? Because deep down he knew I was right. And here's the best part. A few months later, when promotions were announced, guess who got passed over? Mark. Because no matter how skilled you are, if people can't stand working with you, you're going nowhere. Why this works? This line forces them to see the bigger picture. Right now they might think rudeness gives them power. But where is that power leading? Nowhere. It reveals their own self-sabotage. And here's the truth. Their behavior isn't just annoying. It's destroying their future. It's not an insult. It's a fact. And facts cut deeper than insults ever could. When to use this line? When a coworker is rude and condescending, remind them that arrogance comes with a price. When a stranger is being disrespectful, people who act like jerks in public need to hear this. When a family member constantly puts others down, family doesn't give them immunity. When a friend is always negative and dismissive, sometimes the harsh truth is the wake-up call they need. Some people act as if rudeness makes them untouchable. But life has a way of humbling those who think they're above everyone else. So the next time someone disrespects you, don't waste your energy. Look them in the eye and say, your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life. Then walk away. From the last lesson, we saw how arrogance eventually collapses under its own weight. But what if you could stop a pointless argument before it even begins? That's exactly where this next comeback comes in. Comeback number 5. This conversation was over before it even started. This isn't just a witty reply. It's a verbal checkmate, a move that doesn't simply silence the argument. It erases it entirely. You're telling the rude person, you thought we were about to fight, but I'm not even stepping onto the battlefield. You see, disrespectful people thrive on conflict. They want to pull you into their chaos, to get under your skin, because that's the only place they feel in control. But what happens when you refuse to engage? When you make it clear that their words hold no value? They lose their power instantly. By saying this conversation was over before it even started, you do something incredibly powerful. You strip away their control. You remind them they are unimportant. You show them that they don't dictate your emotions. And trust me, nothing unsettles a rude person more than being dismissed. Why this line hits so hard, picture this. A bully pushes someone, fully expecting them to push back. But instead, that person simply walks away with complete indifference. The bully is left standing there, powerless, humiliated. That's exactly what happens when you use this line. You take away their ability to provoke, manipulate, or control the narrative. You remind them that their words mean absolutely nothing to you. And that in itself is the ultimate slap in the face. It denies them the fight they crave. They want the drama, the reaction, the energy. But when you refuse to step into the ring, you instantly rise above them. You're saying, your words are so insignificant, they're not even worth a response, and the best part, it keeps your energy intact. Engaging with rude people drains you. This line preserves your peace by ending the battle before it even begins. A few years ago, I had a co-worker who seemed to live for negativity. Let's call him Jake. He was the kind of person who could find fault in anything. Your ideas, your work, even the way you spoke. And the worst part? He loved doing it in front of others. One day in a meeting, I suggested a new approach for a project. Nothing radical, just a fresh perspective. Before I could even finish, Jake smirked and said, "Yeah, or we could just do it the right way instead." The room went tense. Everyone was waiting for me to defend myself, to argue back, to take the bait. But instead, I calmly looked at him and said, "This conversation was over before it even started." Then I turned back to my work and ignored him completely. Silence, the entire room froze. Jake looked caught off guard, trying to save face, but it was clear he was rattled. Why? Because he expected a fight. He expected me to get defensive. Instead, I dismissed him like he didn't even exist. And from that day forward, he never tried that nonsense with me again. When to use this line: when someone tries to bait you into an argument. Remember, you don't owe them your energy. When a co-worker, boss, or acquaintance is being passive-aggressive, shut it down before it escalates. When a family member or friend is unnecessarily rude, you don't have to entertain their negativity. When a stranger insults you for no reason, some people just want attention. Don't give it to them. Not every fight is worth fighting. Not every insult deserves your attention. So the next time someone tries to drag you into a pointless argument, just look at them and say, "This conversation was over before it even started." Then walk away and let them sit there, stunned, realizing they've already lost before they even began. And watch as the truth sinks in. In the last section, we saw how refusing to fight back takes away their control. But what if you could take it even further by letting them know directly that their words are so meaningless they're not even worth remembering? Come back, number 6. Thanks for your input. I'll be sure to forget it immediately. Rude people thrive on control. Their goal is simple: to make you feel small, to shake your confidence, and to drag you down to their level. But the moment you respond with this line, you rip that power away from them in an instant. Because let's be honest, most of the time when someone disrespects you, they're not offering anything useful. They're not engaging in meaningful discussion. They're not giving constructive feedback. No, they're just talking to hear themselves talk. And they expect you to take the bait. But instead of carrying their words with you, you do the opposite. You treat them as so insignificant that their words don't even deserve a place in your memory. That's exactly what makes this comeback so devastating. Why this phrase works like magic. It makes their words instantly worthless. Disrespectful people want their comments to echo in your mind, to make you doubt yourself, to lower your self-esteem. They want you to replay the insult over and over again. But when you calmly say, "Thanks for your input, I'll be sure to forget it immediately," you're telling them, "You just wasted your breath. Your words won't live rent-free in my head for even a second." That realization crushes them. It stops them dead in their tracks. They expected anger. They expected defensiveness. They expected you to justify yourself. Instead, you gave them casual indifference, the clearest way of saying, "You don't matter enough for me to engage with." And then comes the silence. That uncomfortable pause after your response, that's the moment they realize they've been played. Some people love drama. They love stirring up conflict just to get a rise out of others. But your peace of mind is worth far more than their nonsense. Instead of wasting energy on endless back and forth, this phrase cuts the conversation short and lets you keep moving forward. How this works in real life at work. Imagine a coworker who constantly shoots down your ideas in meetings. Not because they're bad, but because they love being critical. They smirk and say, "That's an interesting take. But let's leave the serious suggestions to the experts." Instead of getting flustered, you smile and reply, "Thanks for your input. I'll be sure to forget it immediately." Then, without missing a beat, you continue your point. Instantly, they look foolish in front of everyone. With toxic friends or relatives, a family member makes a snide remark about your choices. Still chasing that dream of yours? When are you going to get serious about life? Instead of defending yourself or letting their words sink in, you smile and say, "I appreciate the comment. It's already erased from my mind." Then you change the subject. The sting they feel comes from realizing you truly don't care about their negativity. With strangers or online trolls, someone tries to insult you in public or online, tossing out a cheap remark just to get a reaction. Instead of rising to it, you reply, "Oh wow, you must have really thought that one would land. Thanks for the input. I'll forget it in about 3 seconds." The more casual you sound, the more devastating the effect. The psychology behind it. Rude people operate on a simple formula. They throw an insult, you react emotionally, and they feel powerful. But when you respond with effortless dismissal, you break the system. You take away their reward. You remind them, clearly and calmly, that their words carry zero weight in your world, and once they realize that, their entire game falls apart. In the last section, we learned how to dismiss negativity by treating it as too insignificant to remember. But sometimes you don't just dismiss them, you turn their behavior into a mirror, forcing them to see their own foolishness. Comeback number 7. You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself. Some people just can't help it. They live for drama, for conflict, for pointless arguments. It's almost like they wake up every morning, look in the mirror and think, "How can I embarrass myself today?" This comeback is brutal because it flips the script. They think they're making you look bad, but in reality, you're exposing the truth. They're only embarrassing themselves. And the worst part, most of the time they don't even realize it. Why this line hits hard. When someone is being rude, they expect you to get defensive, angry, or upset. But this line plants a seed of doubt. It makes them stop even for a second and think, "Wait, am I actually making a fool of myself?" Even if their ego won't let them admit it out loud, that thought lingers. And once it's there, they can't shake it off. The spotlight shifts back onto them. Instead of you defending yourself, they've become the center of attention, in the worst possible way. If other people are watching, they'll start to notice how ridiculous this rude person is acting. Now they're trapped. Either they backpedal awkwardly, or they double down on their foolishness, which only proves your point further. Staying calm and in control. The beauty of this line is that it puts you in control without raising your voice. You're not angry. You're not flustered. You're calm, observant, and unshaken. And you're calling them out in a way that makes them look like the fool, not you. And the best part? You do it effortlessly without even breaking a sweat. How to use this in real life? At work, imagine a co-worker who constantly interrupts you during meetings, rolling their eyes, tossing in snarky comments. Instead of snapping back, you pause, smirk slightly, and say, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself." Then you carry on as if they don't exist. They'll either sit in silence or try to defend themselves, which only makes them look worse. With toxic friends or family members, maybe a so-called friend keeps throwing passive-aggressive jabs like, "Wow, you actually did something right for once." You don't flinch. You chuckle and reply, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself." Then you go back to enjoying your day while they're left realizing they've only played themselves. With strangers or online trolls, someone's being obnoxious in public or on social media, trying to drag you into their nonsense. Instead of engaging, you hit them with, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself. Keep up the hard work." Then you walk away or log off, leaving them to wrestle with the weight of their own stupidity. The psychology behind this response. Most rude people don't actually believe they're being foolish. They think they're clever, dominant, even winning the exchange. But when you call out their behavior for what it really is, you force them to face an uncomfortable truth. They're embarrassing themselves, and everyone can see it. That's what makes this line so effective. It doesn't just silence them in the moment. It makes them second-guess themselves the next time they try to act out. And that hesitation, that's real power. Final thought. At the end of the day, dealing with rude people isn't about out-insulting them. It's about outclassing them. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to argue. You don't even need to take them seriously. Because here's the truth. Disrespect only works if you let it get to you. But when you stay calm, respond with a sharp line, and then walk away as if their words meant nothing, that's when they feel the sting. That's when they realize they wasted their energy trying to bring you down, only to end up humiliating themselves. So the next time someone disrespects you, remember this. You have the power to make them regret it. Not by stooping to their level, but by showing them that their words are meaningless. And once they realize that, you've already won. Thank you for watching and staying with me until the end. These comebacks aren't just clever lines. They're reminders that you don't need to fight fire with fire. True strength comes from composure, from wisdom, from refusing to let someone else control your peace. If you found value in this video, I'd be grateful if you subscribe to Stoic Havenway. This channel is all about sharing timeless Stoic lessons, practical strategies, and thought-provoking insights to help you live with more strength, clarity, and purpose. Hit the subscribe button, join our growing community, and let's continue walking this path of wisdom together. Your journey matters. And here at Stoic Havenway, you'll never walk it alone.